Hey everybody, this is Travis from Visceral Disgorge.
Hi, this is Cheney Crab from Entheos.
This is Harry Lannon from Cognitive.
Hey, what's up? This is Belen of Ritual Moon.
Hey, this is Danny Rodriguez from Through the Eyes of the Dead, and you're listening to The Great Metal Debate.
The Metal Debate Podcast returns with another amazing artist interview. Today I'm joined by the guys from US Death Metal crew IATT. Thank you guys so much for coming on The Great Metal Debate.
Thanks for having us, Rob. My name's Jay. I'm the vocalist.
My name's Alec. I play guitar.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and we're talking to you at the Cobra in Nashville, Tennessee. It's kind of midway through your tour across the U.S. Southeast. How has the response been so far, and are you guys enjoying being back on the road?
Yeah, it's a really good time being on the road. Everything has its obstacles, but we've manned through it, and it's been awesome. Great turnout.
This has been a really cool run. We haven't done the southeastern chunk yet. We've gone pretty far, but not as far as Florida, which we hit on this tour. So it's been really cool. Saw some really cool spots, met some really cool people. It's been successful, I'd say, so far.
I think it always has to be an interesting change of pace when maybe you've done some local shows a few times and then go somewhere where you might not know anyone in that city, maybe have never even been to the venue. Like, kind of how do you approach that mentally?
I will say it's kind of funny. We've had gearing up for the shows, we've had people messaging us on Facebook like, oh my gosh, like I've heard about you guys, I've known about you guys for a couple years now, like I'm so excited you're finally coming to see me. And I was kind of shocked to see how many stops we've had people messaging us like, I can't wait to see these guys, like you've been on my list for so long, you're finally in my area. So like that's been like super cool to realize that we had more of a reach than we had anticipated before the run.
You can kind of understand, like, they come out to see another band and see you guys and are blown away, but you have been actively listening to before, and like for some of them it's like the first time to get to see you, and from an artist perspective I would think that would have to make you so excited.
Yeah, it's a very exciting thing. Like Alec was saying, before the tour even started, we had people messaging us and they knew about us or knew of us, and they've been waiting to see us. And then on top of it, to see so much enthusiasm, I've had someone walk up to me before we played and they said, oh, I just checked you out earlier today and I had to be at the show. So that was a very exciting thing. So
that's really funny. Yeah, there was also was it in Georgia that we stopped, and there was a kid who came out and he was like, are you playing this and this off of this album, because I really love this, man. Or like how about this album, like I really want you to do this. So like it was cool that like he knew our set list before we announced what we were doing. So that was really cool.
And just to say that just magnifies the power of social media now and digital marketing and things like that. So, we're starting to see that, the benefits from that.
Yeah, that's true, and a big change from for people to be able to interact with you guys and have those sorts of conversations, and also give you all feedback about what fans are wanting and what people appreciate most about your work.
Yeah, that definitely it hits us right in the heart, because we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this, and to see people manifesting what they want to hear and absorbing our material and then screaming it back to us, that's just an exhilarating feeling.
Yeah, I say that's pretty spot on. It's exciting and it's invigorating.
Awesome. Now, your tour mates on this trek are Floridians, Blackened Death Metalers, Visitant. How did you guys get hooked up with Visitant?
Well, Chelsea reached out to me. Me and her were friends on social media for a while, and I was familiar with her former band, and then she kicked off Visitant within the last year or two, and she messaged me and said we should tour together, and that's how I hit off. I messaged my booking agent, and he was all about it, and me and Chelsea have been going back and forth with ideas, and we felt that we had a very similar vibe, and that the two of us, our bands would definitely mesh well together.
And I've heard you all in previous interviews talk about that, about the tension between performing with bands who are kind of in lockstep stylistically versus maybe there being some more variation. What do you think about when considering hitting the road with a band as far as the amount of distance you want musically versus we want to attract that same crowd to the venue?
I think first things first. It sounds kind of silly to say, but like we want to be fans of the band first. Like, you know, we have to be invested in what they're doing as well. And 9 times out of 10, we've found that the bands that we're linking up with after like lengthy discussions prior to hitting the road, that managerial wise, we kind of like take care of our business in a similar fashion. So it makes things like way easier once we're hitting the road to see, okay, yeah, we sync up, you know, managerially, so to speak.
That's something that myself as a fan, I don't normally think about, like all those behind the scenes elements, the logistics, the little things that I would imagine behind the scenes can be enormous challenges and even deal breakers at some point.
Yeah, I would have to say, when it comes from a sound perspective, since we are a progressive band and we have, you know, we do a lot of like different elements, we can tour with, you know, a broad amount, you know, of bands. But the thing that really is a deal breaker or is, you know, something that we really look at is if they have, you know, their stuff together. Like Alec was saying, you know, managerial wise, do they, you know, will they promote? Will they carry their weight? Will we both be able to benefit from each other? And, you know, do they have some sort of draw? So when I started talking to Visitant, I was very excited because they have Chelsea herself. She has a very broad online presence, and that, you know, even though Visitant is like a newer project for her, there's a lot of benefits from that. You know, we could exchange benefits, you know, between each other. Sure. So, you know, it was definitely like a thing that we were excited about.
Strength versus strength just makes everybody stronger. That's right. Awesome. Yeah. A little fun aside, I saw some video of you guys hitting a stop at Buc-ee's. You guys are fans of the Beaver, I take it?
Yes. Our drummer Paul has been bugging us since the start of tour to stop at Buc-ee's because it has the world's cleanest bathroom. And, you know, we stopped there and we were excited. You know, I'm definitely a fan of Buc-ee's. If we cross Buc-ee's again, then, you know, we will definitely stop there again.
It was funny when we first saw the very first billboard. He's like, I've heard about that place. We need to go there. They got the world's cleanest bathrooms. I was like, that's a weird pitch, but like, at some point we will hit it. And every time we got back in the car, he's like, are we going to go to Buc-ee's? Are we going to go to Buc-ee's? This kid was obsessed. It was insanity. So we finally went. And he was like a kid in a candy store. He was like, look at that, look at that, look at that. Yeah. So it was well worth the trip. I would endorse Buc-ee's. Any bands on the road, make sure you stop at Buc-ee's.
That has become a constant. Yes. Yeah. So, you know, there are a couple of awesome local bands on the bill tonight, including Linux. Have you guys met or seen any new acts so far that really impressed you or surprised you?
Well, before Linux agreed to join the show, I started listening to Linux, and I was blown away by them. And then I found out they were from Nashville, and I'm like, I have to have these guys on this show. Awesome. So these guys are very impressive. I spoke to their vocalist, and, you know, me and him chatted it up, and, you know, we're really hitting it off. So I hope to do something with Linux later down the road. Do you have any bands that...
you know, I will say this. Normally on something like this, it's kind of like a crapshoot. Like, you either get like bands that are really tight and have kind of been a little bit more seasoned, and then you have some of the bands that are kind of like fresh, and this is maybe like their first or second show, and maybe they're not as polished, or they don't have their stuff together. And surprisingly, we've been very fortunate to have bands that are all carrying their weight. I don't think we've had a weak band on a show yet. Every opener has been just like polished and like had their stuff together, and it makes just like the whole show experience just so much more enjoyable.
And when you see a band who maybe like it's their first time hitting the stage, maybe some younger guys, do you just applaud them? Do you ever have any words of wisdom? Do you wait for them to seek you out? Kind of what's the right approach to that from some folks who are more seasoned musicians?
Well, you never want to tear anyone down because we've been there, first off.
Sure.
And, you know, we've had those instances where certain bands, you know, kind of tore us down. So, you know, we never want to be that type of person. We want to uplift everyone. So if we have any words of wisdom or any like advice, we definitely will share it. And if we see talent there, you know, we encourage them. You know, and to be honest with you, some of our strongest fans come from bands, other bands that we've played with. So, you know, we are well aware of that.
Yeah, I would dare say probably half the crowd in there tonight at the Cobra will be in a band. So absolutely. Now, since this is the first time we've had you guys on the show, if you don't mind, and especially for folks who aren't familiar with the band, can you give us a thumbnail sketch of how the band came to be?
You know, it's kind of funny. We called ourselves in the very beginning a Craigslist band because I think Jay was the first member who started looking for members on Craigslist way back in the day. We've been a band for almost 17 years at this point, so long time. But Jay and I were the original founding members, and I think subsequently, every other member we had found through Craigslist at one point or another, and then just going through the ranks and things like that.
Tell them about the story of you bringing a knife with you.
Oh yeah, so I was maybe 19 years old. I think
Yes.
I was living in Philadelphia, and I got hit up by this guy looking to start a band, and he had heard that I had played music. So I didn't know these guys. It was like 4 guys I was meeting at a pizza shop somewhere on South Street. So I brought a box cutter with me in my pocket just in case things got rough. I didn't know what I was walking into. And now we're brothers. 17 years later, we're brothers. So
Well, I'm glad that worked out and you didn't have to utilize that. And you guys are from the Philly area. Yeah. I'm always curious, especially post-COVID, because the answers have changed a lot. What's the music scene like there in Philly?
Philadelphia is a very peculiar music scene. There's a lot of black metal nowadays, but the black metal has, evolved. You had bands like Krieg and Woe to start things off before COVID, and that has trickled down. But there's always a lot of black metal, always a lot of death metal in Philadelphia. You have bigger names like Cognitive from that area and stuff like that. You have Half. But yeah, the Philadelphia scene is very it's peculiar. You just have to go there and experience it.
I would say, to piggyback off that, I think that a lot of bands are getting more creative now, overall, because we're seeing a lot more people utilizing progressive elements in bands, or it's not just straight slam or straight hardcore. Those still exist in some instances, but for the most part, we're seeing a lot of bands that are kind of shifting to this weird amalgamation, which is great for us because that's our whole bag. But I think it's cool to see that other people are now kind of branching out and trying to push the boundaries of genre, which is cool.
And the other thing that I want to bring out is there's a lot of bands that are bigger outside of Philadelphia, and they don't play in Philadelphia very often. Like Half doesn't play Philadelphia very often. You have Horrendous, that's on Season of Mist. They don't play Philadelphia very often. So there's a lot of bands that are on bigger labels, but they don't play in the Philly area.
Gotcha.
Yeah. A lot of tours actually skip Philadelphia, if you ever look. Yeah.
To be fair, New York is what, a 2-hour drive?
Exactly.
So there's really, if you're going to go anywhere, you're going to go to New York.
Baltimore's about 2 hours away too. So
we're kind of smack dab in the middle of these two other major cities that are, I guess have a bigger presence.
Makes sense. I'm curious to follow up your point about the evolution of styles. Do you feel like maybe 5 or 7 years ago there was more of a stigma to being more experimental, or what do you think has changed? Because I really resonate with what you're saying about bands feeling freer to kind of explore different avenues.
I don't know if it was a stigma per se, but there was definitely hard lines drawn in the sand, as far as genres go. I think we're happy now to see that a lot of bigger bands are doing that, and I think it's trickling down, and other people have interest in things that were not maybe as openly, viewed,
Yeah. I get the sense that some record labels maybe were a little afraid of they wanted to put bands in a certain box, and you guys certainly don't fit in any boxes. Has PR folks, record companies ever said, hey, my problem is you guys don't fit in the categories that I'm more comfortable with?
For sure. 100%. Yeah. We have lucked out finding a partner who believes in us, Black Lion Records, based out of Sweden. Shout out to those guys. We've had many conversations with many people who are like, you know what, we love what you do, we just don't know what to call it. And the conversation kind of is okay, we get it, it's not for everybody. But labels have brands just like we have our own brand, and you got to stay true to what your message is and what you want to put out there as a product. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, we have had those conversations where it's like, you guys are great, we love what you're doing, we don't get it. Or it's not our cup of tea, and that's okay.
Well, let's talk a little more about the music. Your most recent album, Magnum Opus, and that's just the name, although I think it could be a descriptor as well. That was released back in 2022. Your third full-length release, and first since COVID. With a number of years past, how do you look back on that album? And I don't know as a musician whether you view things in terms like success, failure, or what. I guess just what are your overall thoughts about it, looking back now with time, having been able to play all those songs live?
I think it was very successful for us. That album was a breakthrough for us. I feel like we got across the message that we were trying to portray, and then some. There's so many people that sing the praises of that album as well. So it was definitely a stepping stone for growth, and I definitely think it was very successful. We had plenty of great reviews, and the people that were for it, they're all about it. So
I would agree. I think that we kind of came into our own, I think, during the Nomenclature album. That was kind of like our first step into really solidifying who we are. Now we have our sound. Now we've kind of we're more seasoned at that point. And Magnum Opus was the stamp on the door that said, yeah, we're home kind of deal. To answer your question about success, I have conversations with people about this a lot. That people say oh my gosh, you're on the road. Oh my gosh, you're in a magazine. You're on a magazine. You guys, you're rock stars now. You're big. And it's well, success is subjective, right? I mean, for me, it's about how can we top and grow from release to release. So in my eyes, Magnum Opus was a success because it opened a lot of doors for us into some new markets. A lot of people got to know us who didn't know us before. And it kind of paved the way for a lot of things that we're doing currently, which is awesome. So in that sense, it's a success. Is it a success to someone who's making, who's doing 2-month-long tours? Maybe not. But to us, I think it's a stepping stone, and in my eyes, that's a win.
And ultimately could be a stepping stone to a month and a half, 2-month-long tour for you guys in the future. So I am curious to press a little bit about the progressive side of the music, especially the introduction of the saxophone in there. I'm always curious when bands sit down to write if that's something that just comes across naturally. Did you have a vision beforehand that you were trying to implement? How does that come out in the writing process?
Okay, so first off, we enjoy listening to 60s and 70s prog rock. We enjoy jazz and jazz fusion. So for us, it was natural to blend in the black metal with the progressive elements and having a saxophone or flute or orchestral areas. So that was very natural for us. With our music, we try to push everything to the extreme, and that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much nailed it. I think that we have a lot of influences across the board. And we try, not that we try and be unconventional, but we look for interesting ways to tell stories. And I think thinking outside of the box and kind of getting inspiration from things that are not so pigeonholing, genre standards, it reaps rewards.
And I'll say this as a compliment. When I listen to metal, I normally am okay, is this stylistically from Europe or from America? Mm-hmm. When I listen to you guys, I'm well, it's both. There's the melodic elements, but there's also some grooves there. You guys really walk that line between the continents.
That's funny you mentioned that. Going back to what you said before about stylistically being a fit, we've had many conversations with people that says, we love what you're doing. You have a very European sound, and that's not us.
Really?
So yeah, we've had that. We've always kind of had a little bit of a European tinge, even when we were first starting out. But as we've gotten older and our influences have grown, it's very blatant.
Yeah.
And I would have to say that 75% of the bands that I listen to are European. That just resonates with me. One of my favorite bands are Enslaved, and they are pretty much the Pink Floyd of black metal. So
you can't disagree with that statement. Now, just the past few days, you guys released new material, the single "An Ode to Solace." Tell us about that new track.
I'll go ahead. So that was a really cool experience. We have been, I'll just say this, we've been working on a new album for about a year-ish, give or take. And that process, we had really taken our time. And in between mixing and mastering and doing other things for preparing for a new album, we said, let's do an experiment. We've taken a year to make this. Let's give ourselves 48 hours. And let's lock ourselves in solitude. We took a band retreat up to like the
I see in the video, yeah, you guys are in the remote.
And that was literally 48 hours of our lives. We didn't have phone. We had phones, but like we didn't we weren't texting. We were engaged in the music. We got up there, set up the drums. We started writing day one. The second day we got our stuff together and we started tracking, and we came down from the mountain with an Ode to Solace, which was like a very cool experience and an interesting experiment. And I think it forced us to think differently about how we compose music, giving ourselves a time limit to say, okay, when we come down from the mountain, we have to have this thing good. And it worked.
So that's very interesting that you say that, because I've heard other artists say there's benefits to taking a lot of time, but at some point, if you're taking too much time, you kind of lose the thread. If you're giving yourself a limited amount of time, 48 hours, you're not going to lose that thread. You're focused in.
And I just want to highlight the fact that this was probably one of the shortest songs that we've written, but it had a lot of impact. And another point that I wanted to put out there is that we recorded what was around us. We recorded the forest. We recorded, the water in the river and things like that. So we brought another element into the track as well.
That's true. We wanted to keep the location baked into the experience. So we did field recordings of the forest, of the trees, of the wind, of the water, and that is layered into the track itself.
And that atmospheric element really comes across when you listen to it.
Absolutely. That was all part of the plan.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that's very European as well. So, yeah. So starting to wrap up with you guys, what are the band's plans following this tour with Visitant?
Well, as Alec announced, we have a new album that fans can anticipate to be released next year. We also have a big project that comes along with this new album. So you guys will just have to wait and see what it is. But there's big plans for next year. I just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's really hard because we've been working behind the scenes harder than we ever have before for the past year and a half, 2 years. On really big, ambitious projects, and they're all coming to fruition, and we just have to, it's this weird game where we have to sit and wait until we're ready to release the information, and we're chomping at the bit.
And I just want to say this, the album is completely finished, mixed and mastered, and I can just leave it at that.
Wow. And without giving any specifics, for folks who didn't get to see you on this run with Visitant, think there'll be opportunities to catch you guys live in 2026?
1,000,000%. Yeah, absolutely.
We definitely have an ambitious 2026. You may see us on the road a little bit more than you've seen us previously.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to want to check that out as well. Finally, what is the best way for fans to purchase music and merchandise from IATT, including your latest album, Magnum Opus?
We are all over streaming, so I think if you, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, anywhere that you stream, anywhere you get stuff online, you could find us. We have a merch partner in merchbooth.net where they are doing all of our North American merch sales and stuff like that. So you can hit up merchbooth.net and look up IATT, and you can see us there. Or I think we are on Bandcamp too. Yeah, we're everywhere you can find music.
Awesome. And without any promises on the timeline, before the new album is released, will there be pre-order opportunities?
Yes, there will be pre-order opportunities. We'll make some announcements. There will be singles released and things like that. So just bear with us. By the first quarter of 2026, you will hear something.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to, a little bit here, go to your all's merch booth and get some merchandise from you all directly, which is probably the best way for fans to support you guys. Hey, thank you so much. My first time to see you live. I'm so excited about it and looking forward to this evening, and best of luck on the rest of the tour.
Thank you very much. It was great having you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. Thank you very much.